Welcome. I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County's mayor, and as we travel around Williamson County today, we have the opportunity and the privilege of talking to our director of the animal services that we have here in our county, Ondrea Johnson. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
You've been on here before, and we've got Sam on here that I'll let you introduce, but animal world in Williamson County is changing.
It is. It's an exciting time to be at the shelter right now. You know, I mean, obviously you know that we're building a new animal shelter, and that is probably the thing that's on the forefront of all of our minds right now at the shelter is just what possibilities are out there in the next few years for us.
So we do want to talk about that, but how did you get involved? And I mean, you've got such a passion for the four-legged creatures, well, and even some two-leggeds, I should say, but mostly we talk in terms of four-leggeds. But you've been with us now a couple of years?
About a year and a half.
Yeah, and your passion for animals and the services that are offered is very contagious. But how did you get started in animals? Was it mom, dad? You had to feed the livestock or
Well,
something?
I did actually. As you know, I grew up on a farm, and a funny story, I remember one time having to, I don't know if you remember back in the old days, we would have to write off in school, you know, I will not chew gum, I will not chew gum. And
they don't do that anymore?
I don't know if they do that. My kids have never had to write off, but I did have to write off quite a bit in school. But my job when I would get home from school, get off the school bus, I'd have to water the bulls. We kept bulls at our house, and I would always forget, you know, to water the bulls. My dad would come in, I'd be doing something else. And so one day he came in and I hadn't done it, and he said, "You're going to write off. You're going to write off why bulls need water." So the next day I came home from school, and I got busy writing off that paragraph, why bulls need water. My dad came in, he said, "Did you forget something?" I said, "I'm in here writing off." "You didn't water the bulls." So yes, it was ingrained in me from the time I was pretty young that, you know, animals need care, and I was dragging home every stray or even something that remotely looked like a stray from the time I was about 5 years old. But when I moved to Nashville, I discovered that there's such a thing as rescue, a formal version of rescue, and I started with cats because you know, they're a little bit easier and lower maintenance than dogs, and then moved into dog rescue. And then when the director position came open, I said, "That's my dream job." And here I am.
And you've done a great job of it.
Thank you.
One of the things, before I kind of turn it over to you and Sam to talk about the programs you've got going on at our center, let's talk about the volunteers and how can one volunteer, because you cannot run a facility or an organization without the many volunteers that are needed from, 7 days a week.
Absolutely. Volunteering is pretty easy. We have, every month we have an orientation class for volunteers. You can volunteer to work with the cats at age 14 or older. So, you know, middle schoolers even can come in and work with our cats. 16 and up can volunteer with the dogs, and you go through the orientation. Once you're done with the orientation, we have you come into the shelter, and we assign you a mentor basically, and that person takes you around, shows you all the ropes, exactly what you can do and can't do as a volunteer. But absolutely, the volunteers are a key part of our organization. In fact, I said this to our volunteers this past week, we certainly could not have achieved the save rate that we have without the volunteers. The cat and dog volunteers, they spend time socializing the animals, they spend time training the animals. They just help make them more adoptable and make their stay at the shelter less stressful. So they present better, and you know, it's a fun thing to do. If you love cats, I mean, the cat volunteers come in and, you know, they get the cats out of their cat condos and they cuddle them and they play, you know, with the little feather toys and things that give them exercise. And if you enjoy cats, you know, it's just an hour or so of playing with cats. The dog volunteers obviously take the dogs out for walks, give them potty breaks. Sometimes they take them out and train them. You know, we're working on, we actually, I'm pretty proud of, we started a new program since the last time I was here. An organization called Project Reward provides training for free to shelters. And so we've had the benefit of a Project Reward trainer in the shelter. She's been coming for probably about 4 months now, and she's trained all of our mid and high level volunteers to do basic training with our dogs. So they know how to sit, they know how to lay down, most of them can stay. They just have some, you know, basic leash skills, things that make them easier to adopt and make them, help them stay in homes once they're adopted.
Ondrea, you brought up the save rate, the term save rate. Several years ago here in Williamson County, it was not something that we talked about, our save rate. Mm-hmm. To have an animal shelter, to have an animal control, we even changed names mm-hmm. to give it a better spin, to give it a better presentation, if you would. It's kind of like you were talking about your agricultural life and my agricultural life. It wasn't about presentation after Mom cooked at the house, for an example. Oftentimes we went over and got the green beans and potatoes right out of the pot.
Right.
Now, occasionally, Sunday, the food was in a bowl and you served it, but the rest of the time it was coming off the stove. Why is that important? The animal world that you're responsible for is not only about presentation, it is about saving those animals. It's about finding good homes for those animals. In years gone past, because of the Tennessee Code annotate, your main role or the main role of government was to handle those animals that were wild and stray and had not been vaccinated. And we are trying to change that. You and Sam and many of the volunteers and the employees we have, we are changing that. There cannot ever be 100% for us
right.
because of the nature of the business that you're in. But to have a 96%, 95% save rate is an accomplishment that not only is remarkable, but it is something that I think we're directed to try to do and improve. And those little improvement numbers may be 0.1 or 0.2 mm-hmm. now. But you think about, and just touch on it, how many animals every year go through the animal center, the shelter itself?
We have approximately 4,000 animals that come through the shelter every year. So you're right. The programming really that we put in place at the shelter is what saves those animals and makes them adoptable, where there was a time when we couldn't have invested the kind of time and programming that we have now. It's a testament to you and the commissioners and the culture of the county that you guys value those programs, and we appreciate that. And it's a fun time to be in sheltering, because I think, you know, nationally people are changing the way they approach things. I mean, Sam's program is a good example. This is a new program for us. We just hired Sam full-time back in the spring, and her full-time focus is the community cats. So there's this whole underworld of cats that a lot of people don't know about.
Well, let's get into introduce her.
Sam has a ton of stories she can share too, but this is Sam Anderson, and she's our community cat coordinator. And I'm so proud of the work she's doing. I'm gonna let her tell you about her trapping efforts and the spay neuters that we're doing. But she's a big part of how we're able to save so many cats.
Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I too grew up on a farm in rural Minnesota, a hobby farm. And of course that's where my love of animals started. After college, I got into the zoo and the nature center kind of field, so all about animals and education. And then when I moved to Tennessee about 4 years ago, I found Williamson County Animal Center, and I started working there part-time. And by now I've done just about every role there is, and now I'm the community cat program coordinator.
So what does that involve? What will you actually be doing?
So that involves basically any outdoor cat in Williamson County, whether it's your pet cat that goes indoor and outdoor, or whether it's a feral cat that's never been owned.
Now, you're going to have to define feral.
Right, so feral is essentially wild. Feral means that these cats have never really had human contact. They don't want to be pets because they've never known a home life. And so it would be just like probably bringing a bobcat into your home. They're not suitable to live with you.
So even in Williamson County, we have a feral population.
Mm-hmm. We have a feral population, and we also have a stray population, or we have a lot of cats that we believe have just never been owned. And even though they've lived outdoors their whole life, they can still be really friendly. And that's a common misconception, that just because a cat is friendly means that someone used to own it or it was dumped on someone's property, when really many of these cats have just been fed by our neighbors in our community for years.
You know, if you go to a big city, although Williamson County is growing, we're not a big city, Franklin and Brentwood. I learned from Ondrea and some others that probably even in our smaller cities, there's always a cat population that you never see. It never dawned on me.
Right. Well, cats are what we would call crepuscular, meaning that they're most active at dawn and dusk. So especially if they don't really like humans, they're going to stay away until, it's a little bit safer to come outside. And so, we're at work all day, and then in the evening we're busy with our kids and getting chores done. And so they are really out when we are busy doing other things.
But they are so controlling some of our mice population and some of the rodents.
That's right.
I mean, they are, we don't think of it, but there is a very strong need for that particular
right,
creature.
Exactly.
But now there's lines I'm sure they can't cross over, just like we can't cross over. Talk about some of the programs, Ondrea, you and Sam.
So, as I mentioned, we have the Project Reward program going on with the dogs. Sam's our newest program with the community cats. And we have, of course, lots of opportunities for the public to come by the shelter and experience the shelter. One of the things that we're doing that's somewhat new, I mean, we just finished Cinco de Meow last weekend.
I love the title.
Which was all about the cats. We have now in June 22nd, we have Puppapalooza. So it's going to be all about the dogs in June, and we'll have exhibits, and we're going to have a demonstration. The Project Reward folks are going to come out and do an obedience demonstration and maybe some agility. So people want to come out and see that in action, they can do that. And I just want to find ways that the public can come and interact and engage at the shelter, even if they're not coming to adopt an animal. Because, of course, we know that more engagement from our community is really just better for us as a whole, and it's better for the community if we sort of are all working together on common goals. I'm pretty proud of the visibility that the shelter has right now. I know this summer, Marianne DeMeyers down at the 10 Cottage is running a promotion for us all summer. She designed a T-shirt that says "Love to the Rescue," and we'll be having kittens and puppies downtown this summer. We just did the pup meetup where we had a kissing booth over at the Visitors Bureau. So we're getting out and engaging with the community more, looking for more ways for the community to come in and engage with us. And of course, we're going to be building the new shelter. So
Well, and we need to talk about that. This current facility we're in is probably as old as Sam.
yes, I think so.
And the intentions were in the 80s to build a facility, and the commission funded that. I was around during that period of time when we funded the location that is next to Franklin High School. Most everyone in our community knows where the location is at. But it's small, and it's limited in the types of activities that we can use. And so 3 or 4 years ago, the mission was how do we improve not only our image and the programs that we're offering and the veterinarian services that we can provide for our four-legged friends, but we need a larger facility to be able to address the needs of our community and address the needs of not just our four-legged friends, but a better presentation of a structure. And how do we build that structure from ground level up to make it a premier best practice facility, and realizing the bricks and mortars don't do that. It's like our schools in Williamson County. When I first moved here in 1980, I think we had 8 or 9 schools, and now we're up to 40. We're on the 49th one we're building. We might have had a dozen schools. I'm not sure when I moved here in the 80s, but we're 4 times the size. We build schools. Some people would say they can't believe the nature of what a school looks like today, and the facilities, the technology that is required. But if you're going to have a growing community, and we do, businesses move here, people move here, then you have to build schools throughout your county to satisfy that particular community. And that's where we are with the Animal Center. You service the entire county. I could see in the future, 25 or 30 years from now, as our population continues to grow, that you could have multiple facilities that would serve the needs of that particular community. But we need to start first with a new facility that's an award-winning, that people feel a sense of ownership and being proud that they can go there. It doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal, but it does need to be extremely functional, and you're charged with that. And so you are putting together a team, and we've been looking at ways, but the funding is in place now. The location will be on Old Charlotte. What it looks like, we don't know yet. But the facility needs to address, for the next 10 to 15 years, of the needs of our county and how that is going to perform and help improve the quality of life for us as citizens and the quality of life of our four-legged friends.
Absolutely. And Mayor, one of my goals at the new facility, obviously, first and foremost, I want to reduce stress and contamination and all of those things for the animals, because that's what we're there for. But I also want a space where the community can come in, we can offer services back to the community. We know that for the health of the center and the health of the population of the county, people-wise, if we can keep pets in people's homes, that's what we want to do. People need assistance sometimes. Sometimes they, lose a job. Or I know when the federal government was shut down there for a while, we provided some bags of food for some folks locally who, just were temporarily not getting a paycheck. They were still going to work. Right. So we want to be able to offer those kinds of things back to the community so that we're not just here, to serve the animals. We want to be able to serve the community. And our building now is pretty limited. We don't have any space. We get requests all the time from Girl Scout troops and church groups and different corporations that want to come in and do projects. We'd love to have a room where we could sit the Girl Scouts down and let them do, build cat toys for us or do some sort of projects. So we've got our eye on that in building the new center, and we certainly welcome the community's involvement and engagement in that process. As you know, we've been in this endeavor for a while now, meeting with different stakeholders in the community, getting ideas, getting suggestions, letting people weigh in on what they want to see. And I just got an email this week from someone wanting to know what we were going to do for the cats in the new building. So just a citizen that heard we were building a new building and wanted to just weigh in on it. So I'm excited about the process. The architects that we've hired have subject matter experts that are coming in to meet with the staff, and I know each person in their different areas is going to have ideas about ways that we can create an environment for their programming that will benefit not only the animals, but help it be easier for the public to interact and get access to our services. One thing I'm really, really excited about that I want everybody to spread the word on, though, is we have a grant this summer that is funding part of Sam's program. We will spay and neuter the first 1,000 outdoor cats that come to us for free.
Wow.
So Sam is furiously working to try to get those 1,000 cats in. We've got clinic dates set up. That grant allowed us to hire, one of the veterinarians that's helping us is Dr. Vaden. A lot of people know him. He's been in the community forever. And he's one of the fastest spay-neuter people, I think, in the country. He says he can do 50 in a day if he's got a fast vet tech. So we're furiously trying to get people booked out for those clinic dates, and I'll let Sam talk more about that because we really want to hit that goal of 1,000 cats. Sam can talk to you about the numbers of kittens that have come in the last week or so. Kitten season has hit us. It was late this year across the whole country. Usually it starts in about March, and it just started for us last week. But we want to spay those 1,000 cats so that we don't have so many kittens next season.
Right. So one thing that we have realized in starting this position is that in the past 6 years, the intake we do for stray cats has grown by almost 100%. And our owner surrender rate has it's increased a little bit, but not quite to that magnitude. So it seems like we've done a great job helping people with owned indoor animals get them fixed and keep them from having offspring. But it's those cats that live outdoors that are reproducing at a very high rate. Cats are very, very good at making offspring. And a mother can have up to 4 litters a year, and she can get pregnant at only 4 months old. So that's only 16 weeks. So that's very young for an animal to be able to start getting pregnant and giving birth. And every year, over 50% of what we get are unwanted kittens. Kittens are adorable and cute, and we love them, but we also have many unwanted litters that we want to prevent. So whether your cat is your pet that goes indoor, outdoor, maybe it's a neighborhood cat that's been around your neighborhood for a few years and you leave out food, or you know that there's feral cats that live near you, we will do all of that. We'll the spay, neuter, a rabies shot, and a microchip at no cost to you. All you need to do is bring us the cats.
I think you touched on something there, and it is important on these programs. But I'm reminded that 20 years ago, we didn't have any episodes of measles. Actually, it had been declared eradicated in our country. Mm-hmm. I think about, and I am reminded as a boy growing up in East Tennessee on a farm, the effects of rabies. Mm-hmm. And we aggressively attacked all of our animals, predominantly the dogs, to get those rabies shots. Mm-hmm. We still here in this county provide that service for people to come at different areas, schools mostly, mm-hmm. to have your animal have a rabies shot. I have a fake dog in my room. It's called Williamson. He's a big old rascal, and he's been with me a very long time. And I drag him out to schools. And 2 or 3 years ago, I was in an elementary school, and we were talking about our animals. We were talking about getting rabies shots. And none of the children in this particular second grade knew what a rabies shot was. And it dawned on me then that the old coach and teacher that I dearly loved in a younger life, if they don't know in the second grade what a rabies shot is, then we're missing the boat. Mm. And I do fear that those skunks, those things that are just in our community, and if we're continuing to grow, we're shoving the skunks and the raccoons and all the other animals back into a different environment, and through that mechanism, and so many of our animals, they don't even run from a skunk. They don't know the effects that a skunk can do. Now, after the first encounter, they do. But as a boy growing up, you feared the rabies in your community because not just to the animal, but of the side effect and the treatment that was needed for an individual once they got rabies. I'm not trying to scare anybody, but I think oftentimes we've migrated or morphed to the position, let's get our animals fixed. But there's another issue out there that could rear its ugly head, just like the measles has done all across our country.
Absolutely. We, you know, in addition to those clinics that we have throughout the community, we just had those in April. So we do those in the spring every year. Every month, the last Saturday of every month, this month it'll be a little bit different because of the holiday, but you know, check the website. But as a general rule, the last Saturday of every month, barring a holiday, we have a rabies clinic at the shelter.
Yes.
For $10, you can come and get your animal a rabies shot. For $15 more, you can get a microchip, which is the second best thing to do for your animal. But we do have rabies in this county. We have positive tests for rabies all the time. The other thing that we have in this county is distemper. We are testing more and more raccoons with distemper. We know that there was an outbreak of distemper in Davidson County. Of course, raccoons don't know when they've crossed the county line.
No, they don't.
So that is something. And you mentioned the eradication of measles. We have seen, this is something that I cannot imagine, but I have seen when people want to get their cats spayed with us, they don't want them to have a vaccine because the vaccines have sort of, there's this undercurrent of folks who think they're bad. And so we require, if you bring your cat to us for spay or neuter, they will be vaccinated. We require that. It's the state law. It's actually, you know, as you know, why the state says we have to exist is we're rabies control. So we really encourage people. I know, you know, the common excuse that we have for why people don't want to vaccinate their animals is, well, my animals don't go anywhere, they never leave my house. Well, if they ever go outside, they could encounter,
Yes.
you know, and I know your dogs have to go outside at some point, and they could encounter a rabbit or an animal with distemper, and that is not survivable. Rabies is not survivable. There's never been a case in a human that survived rabies. And as you said, I don't want to scare people, but it is important because it is in our community. And it's not an epidemic, or, you know, you don't need to be scared every time you see a raccoon in your yard that you might be exposed to rabies, but it is something to be aware of, and it is a serious concern.
So, Audrey, you talked about the wild animals, and I know you get phone calls. Can you come out and get this? And I'll just use the word raccoon since you brought it up. Or there's a skunk in my yard, and he's running around in circles. And let the audience know one more time where the parameters are and what you can do. As far as the general public calling in, because there's oftentimes a lot of misunderstanding.
There is, and it is sometimes hard to understand. And I would just say, if you're in doubt, feel free to call, and we'll help you out by at least pointing you in the right direction. If you have an animal that just needs to be relocated, that's really not us. That's TWRA. If there's an injured animal, that's really an organization here in the county called Walden's Puddle. So we don't typically deal with wildlife. The exception to that is if it's sick. If you have a sick raccoon or skunk or even coyote, we are getting more and more calls about coyotes that appear to be sick. We will come out and trap that animal for you and take it back to the shelter. And most of the time those animals end up being euthanized because they are sick, and we don't want to risk exposing someone to rabies or distemper. Those are wildlife that carry that. So if you think you've come into contact with a sick animal, wildlife, we will come out and trap that animal for you and take it off of your property. One thing that we do, we rent traps. So a lot of people now, as you mentioned, we're building neighborhoods out in their habitat. So people are coming into contact with more wildlife. The fox is coming in and getting, whatever it is. They're afraid it's going to get their little dog or whatever. We do rent traps. You can come in and put down a deposit and take a trap and try to catch that fox or whatever it is that's being a nuisance in your yard. And then to relocate that's really a TWRA function. They can tell you how far you have to take the animal. I know one time I had a nest of squirrels in my attic, and I thought I was going to relocate those squirrels, and I just took them couple neighborhoods over and let them go. Well, they were right back, and I learned from research that squirrels can travel up to 20 miles back to their home, so I had to drive them to Nashville the next time I trapped them. So those are the kinds of things, though, that we will be happy to help you with, or TWRA can advise you, but we don't deal normally with wildlife unless it's sick.
Sam, you've got an aggressive program through this grant to try to reach out to all the cats here in the town. We have failed, which is my fault, by not putting the website up. I hope the people in the studio put that website up and the phone number, how they can. So what are your objectives? Getting out to the community, doing shows like this, educating people to try to call upon you.
Right, and if you know of an outdoor cat, doesn't matter if it spends its whole life outside or goes outside a few times a day, we want to fix it for you and give it a rabies shot so we can prevent further litters of kittens. Most of the kittens that we get are from, every year, we believe are from cats that have never been owned. So we know a lot of these cats out there are giving birth to many litters every year, and then their offspring are giving birth to even more litters. So we want to get them all fixed up and back in your community, because that's really where they've always lived. You mentioned construction and kind of forcing wildlife to move to different locations. And we're also finding that with cats. A lot of these cats have been where the wildlife is, and once that's gone, they try to find food and shelter under your deck or under your air conditioner. Like I had one call yesterday. If you have garbage out there, if there's a food source, they're going to find it because they're very smart.
So in our county, I've always been curious. My exposure to cats in East Tennessee, where I grew up, was in the barns and the shelters, and I don't ever remember us having a cat, may have been, that came inside. The cat was friendly, it was on the back porch, tail flopping side to side, usually watching one of her play toys, which was the dog, and her having fun together. In our county, over a period of time, and because except now in the unincorporated part, this isn't true, but in the community in which I live, there are several neighbors that have cats, and those cats basically never go outside. They're completely, I'll say, domicile. You occasionally will see them. But is that the trend in the unincorporated part of our county, outside of Franklin and Brentwood, out in our rural areas, the Page area? Are there still quite a few cats that are running wild?
Where I live, I mean, all of my neighbors' cats are outside.
Yeah.
My cats too go in and out. So I don't know what Sam would say in terms of the percentage of the population.
So far, most of the cats that I've gotten through my program are from Franklin. It could be parts of Leapers Fork and some of the more rural parts of Franklin, but a lot of them are coming from the city, and we've actually done some trapping efforts right near downtown Franklin. So sometimes they're right in your backyard.
Yeah, you just don't know it then. That's what you're... Because I do know, I have been to some restaurants downtown, and you'll catch a glimpse of one of the cats as you're leaving or going to your car. So I do know they're there. And so it's an excellent program we're trying to kick off. What else is going on?
Well, I would just be remiss if I didn't ask Sam to address what people do when they find kittens, because we get, believe it, this week we've had one kitten come in that was found in a dumpster. We've had 2 kittens at least that came in that were found in the mall parking lot.
We had a litter of kittens that was found in a cardboard box in an apartment complex, and we had one that was found on the side of the road. So what I would say is if you ever see a litter of kittens, as long as they're not in immediate danger, mom is gone a big portion of daylight to go hunting, so she can keep her calorie intake up to feed her kittens. So you want to watch periodically to see if mom is coming back. Now, if you notice it's been a few days and mom hasn't been there at all, then you want to give us a call. But we always say mother is best. So if we can keep the kittens with their mother as long as possible, that's what we want to do. So if you have a mother and kittens that you need help with, you can give us a call and bring them in. If you just see a litter of kittens, just give it a few days, and then if mom isn't coming around, please feel free to call us and we'll help in the ways that we can.
Let's go back to our building program.
All right.
I know there's people that are probably hearing it for the first time.
Right. Well, there are going to be lots of ways to get involved with this building. Of course, the county is building the building, but...
And we haven't started.
No, we haven't started. We haven't...
In fact, we really haven't officially signed off on an architect, but we're getting there.
We're close. We're getting so close that it's like I'm like Christmas Eve when I was 5 years
That's
old.
right.
You know, I'm so ready to start the process. But the county obviously is building the building. It is a county service that we offer. So I want to help people understand, though, that there is a group out there, Friends of Williamson County Animal Center, that is really dedicated to enhancing the services and the programs and the things that the county already offers. They do already serve the shelter in a lot of ways. One of the things they do is, of course, they fundraise, and we talk about that save rate. They are another entity that really contributes to that directly, because in the past, if an animal came in, say, with a broken leg, that animal, we wouldn't have been able to help that animal because we have a veterinarian that's full-time on staff, but we don't have orthopedic equipment and we can't set legs or things like that. So normally that would be a situation where we wouldn't be able to help that animal. But now through the funding of Friends of the Center, we're able to get external vet care for animals. And I'm really conscious of how we spend the taxpayer dollars on that, because as much as I love animals, I know not everybody in the community would choose that as their thing that they would fund. So I don't spend exorbitant amounts of money on individual animals at the shelter, but Friends is able to do that because they're a private group. And that's another way that if the public wants to get engaged with the shelter and they want to be part of the fundraising campaign, or they want to do special projects and things like that and don't want to come in and play with the cats or the dogs every day, Friends is a really good way to get involved.
And making a plea, and I'm not ever bashful about asking for additional funds to help get some of the extras that government just cannot provide.
Right.
As much as we'd like to do more, first of all, the facility it'll be a best practice building with futuristic thoughts in mind, with high technology. But there's private individuals out there that we don't want to take away their livelihood. We are a service that when you compete with the private side and the veterinarians in our community, we do not want to threaten them that we're
Right.
going to take over their business. But there's a need for both of us to serve here in our county. I know recently you were telling me that you went to, I think it was Louisiana or somewhere, on a conference. And the practices that we're doing here, the things that like Sam is focusing on, those are called best practice, if you haven't heard those terms. And when you go and you're around other directors or whatever they particularly call themselves in their community, how do we fare out? Are we getting up there? Are we moving that needle a little bit more, that we're one that this is a good community, because communities that take care of their animals, the communities that revere the livelihood and the save rate, they care about quality of life, and you can never discount that.
You know, hopefully everyone has heard good things about the shelter. I will say, when I look at our programming and our practices on a national level, like the conference I went to, I'm so proud of what we have accomplished in this county. And it's, it started before me, we're carrying it on, but there's very few things that we can do beyond what we're doing. I mean, the things that are coming down the pike that I have on my radar to try to implement at our shelter are really things that will sort of push us over that edge of just being top of the line shelter to being really a shelter that other shelters look to for
Technology
modeling.
help your industry? Can it?
Technology is certainly helpful for us. There are a lot of things that we're limited in the building that we're in now because we lack the technology, and we don't have the connectivity to get to the technology we need. So that is certainly something that we hope will be remedied in the new building. But probably not to the extent that it helps something like the Emergency Operations Center, or some of the other county agencies are so dependent upon technology. Our industry really is still very dependent on people's hands. So
We got about 3 minutes left, Sam, in our conversation this morning. You and Ondrea have done a great job. I'm sure there's something that I've not addressed that you feel that's important. Here's your chance.
I think one big thing is that if you call me or you come to the shelter and you say that you have a cat problem, I don't want you to feel like you're being judged. A lot of people, the way that they get the cat problem is they find a stray cat and they want to do the right thing. They want to feed the cat. Well, that one cat can turn very easily into 15 or 20 cats. And we know that you had the best of intentions and things just kind of got out of control. And there are many people in this community struggling with that. So don't be bashful about coming for help, because we really do want to help you, and you're not going to be judged for it. We're happy that you're coming for help because we really do want to help you and the cats. It's good for everybody.
Thanks for being one of the team members, and we'll be looking forward to those results here in a few more months. Ondrea, what else that I've overlooked you want to touch on in the couple of minutes we've got left?
I just, again, want to encourage everybody, a couple things, get your animals vaccinated. If you're there getting them vaccinated anyway, please get them microchipped, particularly cats. It's really difficult to find the owners of cats and get those cats returned to their owners. Less than 2% of cats that come through shelters nationwide and here in the county actually go back to their owner, because we have trouble locating cat owners. And then, of course, come down, volunteer, go on our website. All of our adoptable pets are put up there every week, but then there's also other ways to get engaged. Volunteering, any kind of public seminars that we're doing or anything, all those hours are published there.
And to those businesses that are out there that contribute their time and energy, and in some cases food, we say thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if you're a business and you're interested in getting involved with the shelter, we'd love to talk to you.
Great show. Thank you very much. In closing, I'll say thanks to both of you. I know you've got a great staff out there. They work very hard. They're very diligent. Thanks for your leadership in directing that. We are making a difference in our cat and dog and population, and even some of the larger animals. We occasionally get a horse or a mule or pig, or we get a little bit of everything.
Peacock.
Peacock, I forget about the peacock. That is one animal I do not want to be around. But thank you for what you do for our community. Look forward to the successes of your program, and always, Ondrea, for your leadership to get all of the things done that are required here in our county. Appreciate you very much. I'm Rogers Anderson, Williamson County Mayor. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you at the next show. Have a good day.